Hello, ladies, gentlemen, and sock puppets. I am Chains. Welcome to the Chains Project. Let's go ahead and get started with today's reading. It's going to be the very first story of creation, Genesis chapter 1, verse 1 to Genesis chapter 2, verse 4. In the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth was a formless void, and darkness covered the face of the deep, while the wind of God swept over the face of the waters. Then God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And God saw that the light was good. And God separated the light from the dark. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. And God said, "Let there be a dome in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters." So God made the dome, and separated the waters that were under the dome from the waters that were above the dome. And it was so. God called the dome sky. And there was evening, and there was morning, the second day. And God said, "Let the waters under the sky be gathered together in one place, and let the dry land appear." And it was so. God called the dry land earth, and the waters that were gathered together he called seas. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let the earth put forth vegetation, plants yielding seed, and fruit trees of every kind on earth that bear fruit with the seed in it." And it was so. The earth brought forth vegetation, plants yielding seed of every kind, and trees of every kind, bearing fruit with the seed in it. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the third day. And God said, "Let there be lights in the dome of the sky to separate the day from the night. And let them be signs for the seasons, and for days and years. And let them be lights in the dome of the sky, to give light upon the earth." And it was so. God made the two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night, and the stars. God set them in the dome of the sky, to give light upon the earth, to rule over the day and over the night, and to separate the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the fourth day. And God said, "Let the waters bring forth swarms of living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth, across the dome of the sky." So God created the great sea monsters, and every living creature that moves, of every kind which the waters swarm, and every winged bird of every kind. And God saw that it was good. God blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful and multiply, filling the waters in the sea, and let birds multiply on the earth." And there was evening, and there was morning, the fifth day. And God said, "Let the earth bring forth living creatures of every kind, cattle and creeping things, and wild animals of the earth of every kind." And it was so. God made the wild animals of the earth of every kind, and the cattle of every kind, and everything that creeps upon the ground of every kind. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let us make humankind in our image, according to our likeness, and let them have domain over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the wild animals of the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth." So God created humankind in his image. In the image of God he created them. Male and female he created them. God blessed them, and God said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth and subdue it, and have domain over the fish of the sea, the birds of the air, and every other living thing that moves upon the earth." God said, "See, I have given you every plant yielding seed that is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree with seed in its fruit. You shall have them for food. And to every beast of the earth, and to every bird of the air, and to everything that creeps on the earth, everything that has the breath of life, I have given every green plant for food." And it was so. God saw everything that he had made, and indeed it was very good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the sixth day. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all their multitude. And on the seventh day God finished the work that he had done, and he rested on the seventh day from all the work that he had done. So God blessed the seventh day and hallowed it, because on it God rested from all the work that he had done in creation. These are the generations of the heavens and the earth when they were created. That's a lot of reading. Alright, so now we got to start breaking it down and make some sense of all this. There's actually a translation of the very first line that I said, which states, "In the beginning." It should actually read, "When on high," which really means in the beginning when God created or started to create everything. It isn't the exact starting point of time itself, it's the point of time when God started deciding, "I'm going to make the earth, and then we'll see what happens there." Kind of gives the false idea that that's the starting point of all time, when in reality it might not actually be. The original authors of the Bible got pretty close to the understanding of how planets were formed. They called the earth a formless void, which is what I would view a whole bunch of rocks just floating around in space, prior to being pulled together with their own gravity. Now this also shows that God didn't just make Earth out of nothing. He already had materials that were up there. If he made those materials and left them there and then put them together, that might be another thing, but that's not what I've read. They were also pretty close from understanding where life began. It did begin in the sea, but it did not escalate to the air first, prior to being on land, which I'm going to knock them some brownie points off for being an error, but they get points for starting in the right place. Now most people are going to point out that at this point, if there's one error in the writing, so something that's supposed to be written by an omniscient or omnipotent figure, that it proves that it's not. Well, I do agree, It's not, belittle the entire book, putting it at the same level as the Tinfoil Hat Club's writing. Most people will point out that on the third day we have vegetation prior to the sun, and from our understandings from science shows that plants need light to go through photosynthesis to make food to live. And I find this argument to be invalid for two reasons. The first of which, that is on the first day we have light, which would be 2 days prior to vegetation. If the creation of day on the first day does not mean light in the form that plants can use it for food, that's not a big problem. Because if God created plants in an adult form, I believe they could last 24 hours without light. And if He created all the plants in seed form, that's not a big issue, because most seeds will grow underground without light first. If you don't believe me, go grab some of your mom's rose bushes and stick them in your closet. Wake up the next morning, they'll probably still be there, and that horrible smell will be magically gone. And of course, the issue of what a day is needs to be brought up. It is used 14 times by my count in the very first story of creation. What we view a day as from a scientific standpoint is the period of time it takes the Earth to spin 360 degrees around, and that takes approximately 24 hours. And the point that people make is that how can you use a period of time that hasn't really been created yet? And I agree with this, but I also like to say, this isn't exactly a systematic rundown of how everything was created. Only creationists are going to claim that the first story is 100% true. So overall, is the first story of creation fact? No, it's not fact at all. It's pretty close in some areas, but from a scientific standpoint, it's just rubbish. But on the other hand, it shows that the world is a good place. Every time that God does something, He says that it's good. And good is said 7 times by my count. And the best part is the climax of the story, which is when He creates us, me and you, and the rest of humankind. After that, He takes a nap. And because of Him taking a nap, it shows that we are the most important thing, not only because we are created in the likeness of God, but because there was nothing left to create afterward. And this part about the universe being a generally good thing is not very common in the time period of mythology. Normally there would be multiple gods, the good ones and the bad ones, who would balance out the universe to be technically a neutral place. So this shows that the universe is a good place. And that's a good thing, because it gives everybody hope that they're not just here because there's a good guy and a bad guy running around. It's that we're here in a good place to live and do good things, and hopefully inspire us to do good things for other people. So the first story of Genesis is generally good, as I've told you multiple times. But just because it's a good story and inspirational does not mean that it should be held up to the same standard as scientific evidence. That's all the insight that I have for the first story of Genesis. If I missed anything key or I blundered something terribly, please leave it in the comments below, along with all possible trolling and hate. I love it. And until I think of an outro, I'm Chains.